Hello and welcome back to The Bug. This is Culture Trips podcast. I'm here with George again. We're just kind of going to talk about a subject that is very close to your heart. It's something that I actually took a lot away from when you had the conversation on the show. Why don't you tell us about?
Close to my heart, probably a bit strong.
Well, it's something you've got an interest. You've convinced me to do it, so I was like, all right, okay. Let's...
Well, I don't know. It's like a few of our subjects, influencer marketing has been talked about till it hurts. And I don't want to suddenly pretend to be an expert, but we've obviously dealt with a few influencers. I certainly have in my time. And I'm seeing this massive trend. And I think I hit our guests with these few stats. But I'm blown away by the fact that like 30-40% of budget in some cases is going on influencer marketing. That's nuts.
And that's obviously a change from when you started working on this side of the business, right?
Yeah,
Where it would have
back in the day.
Back in the day, it would have been nothing. And then working its way up, maybe you were not pre-internet age. You've always been around.
Well, yeah. You just had you sort of standard marketing advocate campaigns,
right?
You know, if a consumer was really happy with what you did, then you'd make an advert about it.
Right,
you wouldn't pay them. It was kind of the other way around. But now it's just.
Oh wait, so your average consumer or happy customer would be the influencer in that case?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well. So yeah, I mean, our guests were brilliant. I thought I'd wanted a nice mix between someone outside of travel, Emily, and then obviously Rachel from South Africa, who tells it how it is.
Yeah.
She's brilliant.
It was really interesting that we got to see both sides of it, because I would have probably dealt more with the Rachel side of the kind of business and not directly with influencers.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing that mix was really.
I didn't want to sound like a massive dad, but I did want to get it. I did want to ask those questions, which I know a lot of marketeers are scared to ask because they don't want to sound like they don't know their shit, right? In influencer marketing, which is tracking. Like we go into this in a bit. I think it's a good 5 minutes into it, but tracking, have these guys actually worked, right? Paying them, like the rates vary massively. And I know there's nanos, there's micros, there's macros, there's celebrity type influencers who all get different rates, but the inconsistencies are nuts. So the big itch I wanted to scratch was, how do they measure these guys and how do they get to the end of the campaign and go, that was great, that worked really well? Because it's not often we just sold a load of stuff. It's, it's beyond just engagement rates.
Yeah. Am I a nano?
Yeah, you're a nano.
Oh, okay, great. Is that a good thing?
What a stupid word as well. Don't even start me on the words of nanos.
Let's listen to the experts.
Who came up with that?
Come on, let's listen to the experts.
Okay, do you want to get straight into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Welcome back to The Bug, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about influencer marketing, which is being talked about a lot. It's, no new kid on the block. Let me first introduce my guests. I think it's probably a good time to introduce my guests. First, we have Rachel from, we've known each other quite a long time, haven't we?
We have, yes.
I'd say you're the tourism expert here today.
I mean, I'm in the room, yes, but not in, I wouldn't say outside of this room, maybe.
So you've worked at South Africa Tourist Board for quite a while now?
Yeah, about 8 years.
And then weren't you previously somewhere else?
I was working at South Australia Tourism Commission for about 2.5, 3 years.
So that makes you a tourist board expert.
It makes me a tourist board stalwart, yes.
Yes, excellent. And obviously, Emily, we've known each other quite a while, haven't we?
Yes.
You were like one of the, I would say, original sort of, right at the start of influencer being a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. I entered the space. I'm not an influencer. I entered the space back in about 2015. And I started a blog, funny enough, as my sort of entry in. I worked in finance at the time. And my mentor said to me, you're really interesting when you talk about the things that you're really passionate about, but you're really boring when you're pitching pension and investment funds. So I realized, maybe this isn't the right space for me. And I started this blog as a kind of creative outlet, and I interviewed interesting people to kind of learn about their careers. And it was sort of my way of thinking about what could be next. And then I got introduced to this company called Takumi, which was one of the first influencer apps that was streamlining how brands and influencers could work together. And it was one of the first pieces of technology in the UK, at least, where you had an app that influencers could use to access brand campaigns, and you had brands that were able to streamline all the work they were doing through technology. And at the time, it was really quite simple and basic. You know, you put a sort of mission out to influencers, people would accept it, they'd go and post, they'd then get paid, and you'd get a report as a brand. There was no approvals, there was no selection. How we did that, I did a lot of work with alcohol brands as well, which was bizarre to think that we had that level of trust at the time. But it was all around empowering micro influencers, and the narrative was, why would you spend a really long period of time and a lot of money investing in a really big top tier influencer when for the same price you could get 20, 30, 50 micros. And so I then went to Tribe, which I was there. It's an Australian business actually. So I spent a lot of time in Australia, and I worked with them in the UK and US, and they had a similar model, but they did a content first model. So micro influencers could essentially pitch to brands with their content up front, which is where we actually worked together, I believe, in one of your former roles. So that was really at the beginning. And that was really when people weren't paying influencers much. People didn't really know what a micro influencer was. And so I was really, it's quite funny looking back now, but like a little bit of a show pony going around to everyone and anyone I could speak to educate them on what was happening at the time and what micro influencers were and how people could kind of start to do that. And obviously fast forward now, it's about 10 years on. It's a much more holistic and matured market. And so the spend certainly is...
it was so... it still is exciting. I don't want to put it down. It was so exciting at the time. But when we were working with you, I'm sure you can remember this as well, Rich, but influencer marketing was maybe 5% of spend back then. Not even that,
Not
right?
even that, yeah.
And now, because I've obviously done my homework, I've heard like some brands are going to spend like 40% of their marketing spend on influencers. And like the average is like 25%. Yeah. That's nuts. That's like... So that's back in the day again. That was like the TV spend. Yes, which is just like it just blows my mind. Yeah, I don't know. At South Africa, do you know roughly what spend is done at influencer? Would you say?
I mean, look, we treat influencers a little bit differently. We don't necessarily invest in like micro. Well, at the moment, we haven't been investing in micro influencers. I'm talking from a UK perspective only. Yeah. When I speak about our spend, we have gone down the route of because tourist boards are selling a destination, and actually it's very different selling a commodity. So there's no instant payoff, there's no instant purchase, the purchase funnel using influencers is actually, it's not them talking about a click through and straight away booking. So what we actually do is we look at the higher level. So we kind of, and this year particularly, we're looking at the highest level and then also the lowest level as well. So micro influencers are going to be important in our niche interest kind of demographic. South Africa is huge for niche interests, birding, golfing, diving, just to name a few, rock climbing, things like that. Very much they've got a unique following, they've got a very engaged following, and when you find the right influencers for that, it's it can work really well. But in terms of our brand awareness and consideration, we've kind of stuck with the kind of celebrity, the celebrity influencers, the people who've got that kind of ingrained trust already, and kind of showcasing them in destination. So when I talk about that, I'm referring back to our Gary Barlow TV show that we did on ITV. And before that, we've worked with Michaela Strachan, who lives in South Africa. So is a great influencer for our brand as well.
Michaela Strachan, what a legend.
Well, I know.
Isn't she?
Oh, she's a delight. Absolute delight.
So I'm curious, this is a kind of mildly childish question of who approaches who. And I'm sure this varies a lot. So obviously, you talked about Tribe, and you talked about the sort of business model there of it working both ways. Yeah. But actually, another question probably for you, Rach, is how would the Gary Barlow thing work? Did the agency come to you and say, hey, he wants to go on a big wine tour?
That's essentially what happened. Cool. What essentially happened is Gary Barlow has a wine brand. Gary Barlow's wine is made in South Africa. Gary loves South Africa, and he is just really, he's such a hardworking guy, and like I think he's always looking at things that he wants to do that are a bit different. And he essentially was the one who pitched the idea. It went through the TV channels, through to a production company. It came through to the tourist board via our agency. And that's how that happened. it was a absolute. It was a delightful thing to receive.
Yeah.
As a a millennial girl to get approached and say Gary Barlow would like to do a TV show in South Africa. I'm like, that's amazing. Let's see if we can make it work.
Tell me, Emily, about your experience with celebrities at the top end.
Yeah.
Have you got any? So I'm putting you on the spot there.
Yeah. So a lot's happened since Tribe days. So I went on to MediaCom and I built out an influencer division there. And then I went in-house at Amazon, actually, for my first in-house role, where I was looking after the international strategy for how Amazon works with influencers within PR. It was quite a big role, as you can imagine, 26 countries. But I'd say certainly from the MediaCom days, it was a much more 360 experience for clients. And so we were doing exactly that. And I'd say that the power in that is having really good relationships with talent agents and talent agencies. So most of my job was really building relationships with different agencies and understanding what's going on with their talent, and different industry, different category. But Dulux I used to do a lot of work with. And it's quite a tricky one, because how many times can you talk about painting a house? And it's not something you can really talk about without actually doing it. And so it was a really interesting journey with Dulux, because they're such a traditional sort of heritage brand that most people would have used over the years, but you wouldn't necessarily think of them as a sort of social first brand that are really sort of cutting edge. And so we took, we sort of went on a journey to bring them into being more sort of social first. And the first question I asked was, how about we look at people who are actually moving house? And so with their celebrity ambassador each year, instead of renting a studio and a set, we actually went into people's homes. And funny enough, I actually got sent a picture the other day of Dr. Alex George, who you might have seen. For another project that I'm working on now. And I saw in the background, he had the blue wall that we painted with Dulux all these years ago. So I think when you marry the genuine moment that is happening in someone's life, or a genuine affinity with a brand, and then you layer the brand messaging into that, that's where you get this perfect, natural, I was going to say authentic, but I don't want to say that word.
You've got to.
But storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's really where you get the best partnerships. And so I think celebrities really, if you get that deeper partnership really right, that's where it really works and moves the needle.
It's a great point to sort of moves me on to my next point is it would be so easy today to talk about all the great positive stuff of influencer marketing, and it's no question it's here to stay. It's a fantastic thing. Mm-hmm. But I did want to use today to kind of look under the bonnet slightly about,
you want the gossip.
I always want gossip. About some of the things that maybe, are still a struggle. I'm going to keep professional. And some of the things that are industry-wide, like I think about, for someone who's worked with a lot of influencers myself, I think about tracking, very boring, and accountability, like we talked about.
Yeah.
I think about pricing and the fact that, in terms of as a sales guy myself, I used to sell display at a certain rate. Used to sell, and I know it's a very different market, but equally, it still feels like there's not. It doesn't feel like there's a real benchmark that I see in the industry still. So it'd be interesting to know how you think the pricing's gone in the last 5 years in terms of, is it competitive? Is it reflective? How people judge, how a brand judge, how much they're gonna pay an influencer, and the sort of criteria they look at. So, Emily, if I come to you first on that, I'd be really interested to hear what you think about who's really overpaid, and who's at really good value.
I'm not going to name names. I did see the other day, there was another podcast actually with an influencer, and she was talking about the most she'd been paid for a post. And I think she said 30,000 was the most for like a single deal, but I think she was offered 75,000 once for a brand, but she had to change her hair color. I don't know what that was about.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. I know. I was like, I would probably change my hair color for 75,000. So, but I think it's a really tricky one, because it is so subjective as well, and so there are so many variables that go into an influencer partnership. Across like, what's the depth of the partnership? Is it, a post and 2 stories? Is it a podcast reading? Is it also a live show? Is there some sort of competition element? There's so many different variables that factor into that. And then obviously you've got so many channels that people are now on that makes that quite complex. But I think fundamentally one of the biggest drivers is supply and demand.
Yeah.
And that's the part that is a little bit vaguer, because if someone is really in demand, there's only a certain amount of posts they can do. And especially in travel and tourism, there's only a certain amount of trips they can do in a year.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see, you talk about you working in the higher end with our friend Gaza.
Yeah.
That was going to be one
He's
of
my friend, not yours.
Yeah. I wish. How do you, in South Africa, and don't worry if you don't know the answer to this, how do you, the lower end of the scale, so the nano, and I hate using these words, by the way, like smaller normal people, micro, macro, how do you go about thinking, oh, that's reasonably good value, or they are taking the piss?
I think that, I mean, to be honest with you, we have to rely on third parties to help us with that.
Yeah.
And there are so many tools being created, have been created in order to measure that. The good thing, I think, about having a tourism brand as opposed to, say, a paint brand, just because that came up, is that more people they're more kind of, they want what I've got because South Africa's amazing and people do want to go to South Africa. So actually the negotiation lies in my court because I'm the buyer in this scenario. I'm not reduced to just a very small pool of influencers. Yeah. You've basically got quite a number, and who wouldn't want to go and influence on South Africa?
We're so really lucky, aren't we? I have to say.
Yes. So we are very much in this kind of realm where we can go, okay, this person has this audience and they are engaged really well. However, if we felt like they weren't, we would get 3 quotes and we'd go to 3 kind of unique influencers and we would get what they would deliver, and then just look at the cost comparison and say, that's really good value. Oh, this one's going to add in a load of additional things. The issue then that we've spoken about is reporting and ROI and everything. We get audited and tracked on absolutely everything. Yeah. So what we do also need is, yes, you might have someone who can deliver the job, but can they prove that they've delivered the job? Yeah. And we might know that they've delivered the job because we've seen it, but they need to actually come down to it and go, this is my report, and that's what I need.
When I naturally talk about influencer marketing straight away, because of my generation, I think Instagram. It'd be interesting to know the different social channels you guys are starting to like and loathe. And actually, Rachel, I'll start with you. Are there ones, even LinkedIn, I think we give so little focus on the B2B channels or TikTok, or are there other ones apart from Instagram that you think, oh, this is a really good opportunity?
B2B doesn't have to be a channel. It's just about an audience, really. So I think in travel, we recently did I say recently, it was a couple of years ago, we did a trip with the on-the-road sales managers from B2B or tour operators. Yeah. These guys are on the road. They have a following from their agent. They go into agent stores. They go, they have them at events. They take agents on fam trips. They do all sorts in terms of raising their own profile for their business, for the company they work for. We took them on a trip to South Africa, and they were posting in closed Facebook groups. Oh. They were posting on the intranets and following kind of that pattern. Brilliant. Now, the engagement levels were really high. They were getting instant messages from agents who were going, I'm actually looking at that property for someone right now. They were then giving the feedback and then being able to convert it into bookings after they got back. So what the B2B element in terms of travel, there's a whole layer of the industry that work exclusively with travel agents and tour operators who are our influencers, but they wouldn't probably class themselves as influencers.
I love that.
Because they are just, they're just doing their job. So they're not being, so essentially they were being paid by their company to be in South Africa, and we were paying for their trip to South Africa. But there was no other kind of saying you need to post X amount of day. Right. And then they were on the road and they were doing training sessions with agents. They were doing webinars and stuff. So we managed to get a whole heap of return on investment from that trip.
Yeah, brilliant.
Just by choosing the right people and ensuring that they had the right audience. So the channel wasn't really the importance there. Yeah. It was the person. So I think when you're talking B2B, if you've got a good influencer in that space, they are using their own profile, their own channels. LinkedIn, you've mentioned, but LinkedIn's a whole other kettle of fish. in my opinion, it's winds me up something. Like the posts you see on there don't ever feel genuine. And I think with the thing with TikTok and these like Facebook group posts and stuff, it always felt really genuine and really honest.
I completely agree with you. I think that AI is slowly ruining it, and there's so many posts. I actually noticed the other day, I saw the same post from like 2 or 3 different people.
I think I know what you're going to say.
No. It was just people had gone into AI and say, write me a post about, and it was the exact same. And I do feel like there's this lack of authenticity. I hate to say that word, it's such a buzzword, but there is an element of that in some parts on LinkedIn. I think it's just because it's a little bit noisy. But I mean, personally, for me, now that I work for myself and I have my own business, LinkedIn has been the key channel that has been like a lead generator for me. And it's just about sharing the work that I do. But it's all about getting the tone right. And I think different channels have different tones, depending on, I guess, who your audience is and what the platform style is. And so I've been testing myself, you know, if I did a post on LinkedIn, what does that look like on TikTok? And then how does that relate to Instagram and other channels as well? So I'm loving TikTok, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not really a natural TikTok person. I think I prefer like written content or long form. I like to think about it. TikTok's a bit too snappy. But I did like a post recently that was like 10 things I wish I knew earlier in my career. And the like to save ratio is so high. And I feel like that is quite common on TikTok. I think it was like 50% of the people who had liked it had also saved it. And even on LinkedIn, it wasn't, you don't get a strong engagement in the sense of people quickly engaging with that. And that was quite a nice one to do. I think Instagram is good for the polished stuff and to feel a little bit inspired, but it can make you feel, I don't know,
Removed?
A little bit removed, or like everyone's looking at it and everyone's traveling. I've seen all these influencers on brand trips at the moment, and it just feels a bit sometimes like, I want something a bit more real. Whereas where TikTok is.
TikTok's great for that.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like a dad, but let's talk about Facebook.
Okay.
I recently find myself using Facebook more. And I just find it, I don't know if it's a nostalgia thing, because obviously, 15 years ago, you were using it an incredible amount. Is it 15 years, 10 years? I don't know, something like that. The usage is still pretty high, right? And it's still, I mean, it's not TikTok. I think it's the second biggest social media platform. I don't know how active it is. But do you guys, I guess, Rachel's point of view, do you do lots of activity across, or does anything you do across Instagram just instantly flow across to Facebook?
We have only a slightly difference between what we post on and how we post between the two channels, because we do still treat them a little bit separately.
Yeah.
Our Facebook our Facebook page is still gets high engagement, and we still manage to get that. And we treat it very much as an inspirational thing. We have an amazing agency who really kind of monitor what we're posting and seeing, have we got a decent amount of geographical spread? Are we highlighting the correct type of businesses? Are we getting all of that complete spread? And actually, for us, it's an easy win, because we're able to take out a middleman in terms of getting some of the destination stories to the consumer.
Yeah.
It's really quick, and the user-generated content is really amazing. But then, of course, we're just kind of adapting slightly, posting across different channels, and we're getting different audiences across different channels. Facebook is still gives us our highest views. It gives us our highest engagement, our highest number of comments. I think for advocacy, which obviously is, what's the term? The influenced become the influencer.
Yeah.
The people who kind of have been told to go somewhere, they come back. Actually, a high volume of our comments on our posts are of people who've been to South Africa. Yeah. And that just adds into that kind of trust mechanism of people going, word of mouth is still our best driver of people going to South Africa. And sometimes on Facebook, even if you don't know that person who's been there and who's saying they had an amazing time, you feel a step closer to them than the influencer on Instagram who's posting a really polished video.
It's a really interesting point, that actually, because you think before influencer land, there used to be some really lovely campaigns simply about UGC. which is, and it was putting a spotlight on someone who'd already been on a trip and had a lovely time, or already had something, and no money had changed hands, right? It just happened.
Yeah.
And we used the words like engagement rates and everything like that, but they were off the charts because simply people knew this was 100% genuine and lovely. And sometimes I feel like it's gone because we can get this stuff off the shelf now. And I'm not even talking about, Tribe and platforms like that. I'm talking about the fact that, we can give an agency money to get these great influencers, and there is some fantastic fits out there. I feel personally like some marketeers are getting lazy, as in the opportunities. I'm not staring at you, by the way. How dare you?
I I felt it.
No, but I'm just saying, if we had more time and resource, I think I miss those pure UGC campaigns where we put a spotlight on the normal day consumer. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Emily.
Yeah, I suppose there is an element it can feel very contrived, and I think also in general consumers are way more aware of what's going on, whereas a few years ago people didn't. I remember one of my closest friends who's not in the industry used to say, "Oh, so that person's paid to wear that dress, but I bought that dress," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, this is how this industry works," and I think there's just so much more. There's more sort of transparency around it, but people are aware of it. So they're aware they're being essentially sold to. And I think there's a little bit of sensitivity. And I think it's different in different regions and different countries.
Yeah.
In affiliates, you can see that come through quite strongly because across different cultures, they're putting a link and really sort of encouraging people to shop doesn't really work as well as other cultures. So you see a difference there as well. But I think that's again where it comes to the perfect storytelling, narrative, the alignment between the talent and the brand. So whether it's at celebrity level like Gary Barlow or whether that's more at micro and nano level, those partnerships though are harder to uncover and they take a lot longer to develop. So it does mean that whilst you've got that going on, the perfect blend is to have these sort of ripple effect of the UGC underneath, but it's just being able to facilitate it all. But it's difficult because it's not a very scalable channel. You need people to manage people that you're dealing with, and you can't really do that through just AI or just tools. You still need a human to sense check things and build relationships. So it's a little bit tricky, but people are now dedicating whole teams, to this, and that's the power of having great agency partners as well, I think.
I remember it's always happening on Instagram. There will be a lot of micro and macro influencers moaning about the engagement rates, and they go, "Oh, it's not the same as it used to be. It's absolutely tanking." And I, as a wannabe influencer, I still literally.
It's the system that's against you.
Why isn't this selling? Why? I don't understand. I joined in that conversation. I'm like, I've just done a really lovely photo of me in my red jacket on a mountain, and I look awesome. And my engagement rates are rubbish, and everyone was also doing the same thing. And although I moaned as someone who wanted lots of likes and affection, what I realized actually it was kind of leveling out the whole industry because, you had just your good mates who had maybe a couple of hundred followers who would post a picture of their nephew, who's the cutest thing in the world, who just maybe puked up, and it was really sweet. And it was just like, or some sort of bad example, or some family photo where people can adhere to, and they would get lots of engagement and lots of likes, and suddenly it sort of put a level playing field on all these peoples and put a spotlight on people who maybe didn't have that really close following. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, I kind of like the way, dare I say it, the kind of algorithm has worked with, and this is really contentious when it comes. I like how Instagram's algorithm has worked, and I feel like I'm coming out. I feel like I'm saying something quite big there, but I don't know what your thoughts on how the sort of trend has gone from that point of view.
I think it ebbs and flows, and I think that it's funny as we talk about like the algorithm, and Adam Mosseri, I think that's how you say his name, the guy who heads up Instagram. He does a Q&A every Friday. And he did something the other day and he said, lots of people ask me about the algorithm, but it's not just one algorithm. It's like loads of different algorithms that change all the time. I think it's different across different platforms, and the savvy people get to understand how it can work best for them. So timing's a massive thing based on where your audience is based.
Yeah.
Days of the week, types of content. And I think the more you post, the more you understand what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
And it's tricky as well because there's so much that you can't necessarily measure, or you can't visibly measure when you're looking at someone's profile. So things like DMs or even saves are really great indicators of engagement, but you don't necessarily know that you don't know that if you're looking at an influencer's page. I think TikTok is a really great one because it's pushing it out to people that don't follow you, and I think that's a really good indicator, and it will quickly kind of push your video out if it sees that lots of people are engaging quite quickly. And again, with LinkedIn, you know, when people like and comment on someone else's post, that then reaches a whole other audience, and I think that's something that people don't use enough because the like opportunity for reach on LinkedIn, I really believe, is a lot higher than other platforms.
I probably I've asked some fairly cynical questions today, but if I strip it back, there are so many influencers I follow and love and get influenced by. You can't help it. I have so many. Obviously, I'm a running geek, photography geek, and it works. And I hate to admit it. And these things, they do naturally influence me. So you can see why it's such a amazing industry.
We've always been influenced, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way we're being influenced has changed.
Yeah.
Like, we used to defer to certain people for certain things, and I think there's also kind of a bubbling under. Don't forget your Google reviews and your Booking.com reviews and those as well.
Yeah,
there's actually a whole heap of influencers that are because you get points on Google for the amount you review, and the higher that you get your points, the more likely it is that people are going to see your review, and also the more kudos people give it as well.
Yeah.
So, for example, just going around, I've just got back from Georgia, and my friend was like, I review everything that we do, and I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I've now got a little local guide badge on my Google. But it means, though, then it's again, you've got a whole other heap of influencers where people are going, I'm going to look at Google to see where I'm going to go for dinner, and that's 4.6 rated. Let's have a quick look at the reviews.
Yeah.
So you've got that as well. So it's not just about the social channels. There's a whole other underlying thing where we're going. People used to just refer to newspaper hotel reviews.
Yeah.
Those, I think there's quite a lot of media brands now that still put a lot of money into their restaurant and hotel reviews because that's where people are going as well.
Emily, going to put you on the spot. It'd be good to know your call as to, and there's no short answer on this, where you think the next couple of years is going to go in terms of the big trends and the things that maybe will be less important.
I think we're definitely in a bit of a comeback era of brand trips. Brand trips were a massive thing, and they also really felt quite exclusive before, and then it kind of went a bit quiet, obviously, kind of when people weren't traveling as much. Now I'm seeing brand trips left, right, and centre, and I think that we're finding travel integrating with lots of different industries, and I think those deeper partnerships and richer partnerships are going to be are just going to be more prominent. I think that having some sort of spin with specific influencers where there's an alignment will also be will be more of a thing. So, for example, it's a very silly example, but a girl that I follow who goes to my local nail bar has got her own nails style.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, the skinny French or something. And so people go and ask for her nail stuff. So I think things like that, and I think in the travel industry, there's just so much opportunity for those richer partnerships, whether it's with specific resorts or specific itineraries that people can then essentially purchase, and you can package up in a bit more of a deeper way. I think that payment is going to become just a bigger topic, and I think we're going to see a bit more transparency around that. And I think it's going to continue to be holistic. I think, there's not one single platform outtaking another. I think that we've got a good broad range of platforms, but you use them differently for different things. YouTube is definitely one of the major platforms.
It's my favourite platform.
Yeah, we haven't had the time to speak about, and I think in the travel and tourism space as well, YouTube is so important. So that would be my sort of guess, sort of continued deeper, richer partnerships and more integrated experiences.
I hate saying this because I'm just going to say it, but can you talk about AI and that it's almost as annoying as saying the word authentic? But I was looking on the way here. Actually, there was something about Wimbledon a couple of weeks ago. There was a
AI influencer.
There was an influencer at Wimbledon who probably got the most engagement ever, and she wasn't actually there or wasn't actually real.
Yeah.
So, from an AI point of view, it's a hugely generic question to ask. Where you've got to ask it, where do you see that going?
When it comes to content creation, AI influencers, I think it's really tricky when you're building AI people or like computer generated people.
Yeah.
I know that it seems quite cool, but I think people ultimately don't necessarily trust something that's computer generated.
Yeah.
They might like it and have an appreciation for it, but I don't think you would trust that as you would a person. And so for brands, I actually always say that it's quite a risky place to enter into because the chance of backlash is very high.
Yeah. Perfect. Rach, I'm going to finish with you.
Go for it.
Travel, and I know you talk from a South Africa point of view.
Yes.
Do you see the way you use influencers in the next year or two changing? Or I know it sounds like your focus is very much on the celebrity front, but where do you see things going for South Africa?
Our focus, we did do that project. It's probably the most recent project, which is why I was talking about it. I do think we'll probably change and kind of move towards that kind of thing because content creation you mentioned AI, but like genuine content and destination content is never going to be lost to AI as far as I'm concerned. I genuinely do believe that. I think it's one of those premium things that if you want to generate a picture of the Drakensberg on the on AI, you can do that. I mean, that is fine. You can do it. Is it going to be the same as the exact moment someone took a photo? No.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's a real place. It's a real and you experience real people. I think what we will be looking at though is the way in which maybe looking at more podcasting and YouTube and how that integrates into how do you leverage off all these little things because with tourism it can never just be a couple of reels and a story. It has to be something more and it has to really benefit because the reason why tourist boards exist is to economically impact the destination, right? And I think there's an opportunity for connections to be made with the smaller businesses in somewhere like South Africa, and the impact can be greater. And actually, influencers are going to have a positive impact rather than just standing on top of Table Mountain and being paid £30,000 for a post, which is definitely not anything we've ever done. Though
I'm available. Just
FYI, that is not something that we would do.
Thank you so much for coming in. I hope you've
Thank you.
enjoyed it. It's getting
great,
quite hot now,
yes.
so we better get out of the
It
studio.
is.
But thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
you.
Thank you.